Awesome. All right, so let's do this. Maximizing your LinkedIn potential. You're all in the right room. Thank you all for being here. I'm really excited to support you in this endeavor and try to rapid fire as many tips as I can. So just a little bit more about me, in case you want to know. I have over 15 years of experience in digital marketing, product management, and strategy. 5 of those years, I would say, has been coaching as well, part-time. I've done a lot of things in the startup world, like having a national incubator that I started in Canada and advising a lot of startups. I also was part of some startups in the sense of being a co-founder, and one of those won an international competition, and another won a national award. So just to share, I'm coming at it from a tech perspective. So I've been on LinkedIn since I think the first or second year it's been around. So it's been almost 15 years. And the world is your oyster because, I have something like 12,000 direct connections, but that amounts to almost 1 million second degree connections. So there's a lot you can do, even if you're starting at 100 connections, 1,000 connections, like multiply that by a factor of many more. And you can imagine that that's the world that your posts are most likely going to be seen in. It's much more likely to be seen by obviously your first connections, but even your second degree connections. And if you would like to connect with me again, feel free to do so. You can share a note again if you'd like me to host other sessions in the future, or you could just leave that out, up to you. Great. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. The most common issues that folks have on LinkedIn. Why LinkedIn and why now? Why not TikTok? Why not another platform? I'm going to hopefully convince you with some data and some first world accounts of what I've experienced on LinkedIn, share with you some lead generation tips, share a little bit more about content distribution, summarize everything, and then at the end, I'll share with you a very small group masterclass that I'm doing next month. So let's get going. So let me know in the chat which of these issues you would pick as your number one issue, 1, 2, or 3, or 4 as I'm going. Or you can say several, but just so I get a sense. Issue 1 tends to happen with a lot of people where they have a LinkedIn profile, but it's essentially dormant. It hasn't been recently updated. And when I say recently, I would say in the last year. It hasn't gotten that refresh. Issue 2 is you're not regularly posting content. You're just liking and or commenting on other posts. From what I've seen with the hundreds of people I've worked with, both directly and indirectly on this, issue 2 tends to be the most prevalent. And then issue 3, even if you are posting content, you're not doing so consistently. And then issue 4 is maybe you're doing a mix of things, but you're prioritizing Facebook, Instagram, and or I'm still going to call it Twitter, even though it's called X. Like I refuse to switch to the new name. A TikTok, who knows, to attract and convert your leads. So let me check in the chat real quick. I'm seeing a lot of 2s and 3s. Okay, so what's good about having issue 1 is that you're actually taking a step. So no one's telling me, oh, I don't have a LinkedIn profile. So you're all ahead of a lot of people. 2/3 of people, of professionals actually don't have a LinkedIn profile, believe it or not. So you're already ahead of more than 2/3 of professionals. So let's get you to that top 1%, like I shared about in the session description. So issue 1 seems to be that a lot of people have an updated profile. Great. We'll still talk about it since it seems like a few people have that issue. Seems like most people in the room are issue 2 and 3. So we'll discuss that the most, which is posting content and doing so consistently. And then the last, I would say that you're kind of graduating problems. Like there's always going to be problems or issues in life. I'm kind of in the issue 5, which is more that I need to, if anything, focus only on LinkedIn. And it's a mix of issue 4 and beyond, which is that not necessarily that I'm prioritizing others, it's just that I'm doing a lot of things. I like a multi-hyphenate. I'm still doing consulting and coaching. So They're just realize that we all have an issue we're working on, and that's not a bad thing. There's a plethora of solutions that hopefully I'll walk you through. Cool. So as I alluded to, 1 out of every professionals on the planet is on LinkedIn, which is a lot of people. And most senior business leaders are on LinkedIn. So, LinkedIn has almost 700 million users and almost 300 million monthly active users. So it's one of those tools that you can say people are coming back to time and time again. And the end goal that LinkedIn has shared is to have 3 billion users. So they're definitely not stopping now. They're not, getting stagnant by any means. Even if you might think, oh, like TikTok is the latest and greatest, or like Be Real, or like there's always going to be platforms that come. But just the fact that Microsoft bought LinkedIn, the fact that they're, have this audacious goal of having more than half the, adults on the planet to be on LinkedIn means that it's a good place to still hang out. And it's beyond just a recruitment platform. Like sometimes I have these sessions and people are like, oh, well, people are on LinkedIn only to get jobs or to post jobs. It's actually the #1 place now where entrepreneurs, small business owners, coaches grow their network and business. And 80% of people on LinkedIn are driving business decisions. They're not just, there to have a profile and never look at it again. For folks who are doing B2B coaching, it's also seen as the #1 channel to distribute content. And almost all folks in B2B are posting on LinkedIn compared to, Twitter or Facebook, which fall behind. And in doing so, they're also getting more than 80% of their leads from LinkedIn. So if you want to see this visually, like if you want to know what's like the actual best social network and consistently for lead generation, it still continues to be LinkedIn, and by a factor of 4 times more conversions. You might get more eyeballs on Facebook and Twitter and TikTok, etc., but in terms of conversions, it's still proven to be the most effective. So Bill Gates has been quoted as saying content is king, and I'll add the also could be queen, in the sense that content is actually where you will stand out as a professional. So if you are on LinkedIn and you're just there very passively, there's, the algorithm is not going to necessarily surface your profile, especially not at the top when people look for coaches, for example. Whereas if you are posting, you're going to get rewarded, because if you think about it, Microsoft that now owns LinkedIn, they're not in the game of trying to, make as much ad revenue as like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok are. They're much more likely, since now, Bill Gates is technically the owner of LinkedIn, even though there's, a huge team behind him and on the LinkedIn teams. They want you to engage on their platform versus other platforms, right? And that's why publishing and sharing content online is still going to be the single biggest lever to your lead generation. So this is where that sweet spot of what I shared, like the top 1%, is actually top 0.44% of people on LinkedIn. And by far, what makes them stand out is regularly posting original content. So what that means is once a week or more, if you are posting content, you are literally in the top 0.44% of all LinkedIn users in the world, right? So the other 99.56% of LinkedIn users are not posting weekly. And when we say posting, it's like miles and miles apart than commenting on someone else's post, liking their post, etc. So this is the in case you're wondering, okay, what is Lida talking about for the top 1%, is actually even better. You're going to be in the most engaged 0.44% of LinkedIn users by posting weekly. And the reason for that is, again, what I shared before, only 3 million people, which sounds like a lot, but of their total, which is actually increased. So if anything, it's probably 0.4% of users right now post every week. And they're getting 9 billion impressions every week for free. So we're not talking about like LinkedIn ads. We're not talking about like huge influencers that, have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of followers already. Only 6% of the top 10,000 most shared articles of the last 5 years were written by influencers. So, you know, that means for the rest of us that don't have hundreds of thousands of followers or millions of followers, we are in the top 90-something% of people that are actually getting these eyeballs for LinkedIn. What I will say though is that you start seeing the leverage and what defines that threshold once it's posting at least once on LinkedIn this week. So my challenge for you is to post once on LinkedIn this week or more. And then you can get back to me and say, hey, that didn't work. And then I'll, you know, give you a little more motivation, hopefully, to post a second time. And the more you post, I would say I don't usually post more than 3 times a week, and that's a busy week. So I'm usually like once or twice a week. And that's where you get to the sweet spot of maximizing your LinkedIn potential. So I'm trying to go quickly here so that I can get to your questions soon. So feel free to, you know, think of your questions, and then in the next, like, I would say 3 minutes, I can start getting to them. So in case you want to get beyond just the high level that I shared today, and you want, you know, 200 more slides of content about understanding LinkedIn, about how to optimize your profile, growing your network, tips for content, like with specifics, with screenshots that I've actually had that shows all the analysis of my content that helps you to create compelling content of your own. If you are in the game of doing LinkedIn ads, which I've done in the past, there's a module around that. And then the most intense, biggest module is module 7, definitely by far, which is probably where most of you, based on what you shared with me, are going to, that's going to be the sweet spot, which is creating content that drives leads, turning your content into compelling updates, optimizing your landing page if you have one, and if not, you know, I have some information about how to create one easily, and then tuning your campaigns if you have any for maximum success. And again, I give a lot of case studies, both myself and other folks. Yeah, so all of this, I have 2 options available if someone's really interested. There's one that's like learn on your own, self-guided, again, 200 plus slides, recordings of me going through all the slides and the examples and the templates, case studies and tools. There's that option. And then there's an option that I've just done once, and this is the second time I'm doing it, which is on September 20th. And in case you are curious about that, that's going to be a very small container. It's going to be 5 folks and myself. And there we're going to spend 5 hours together, and I'm going to give you very, very specific, you know, ways that I've gotten clients through LinkedIn. I'm going to like have you follow my mouse clicks and show you how that's all done. So that one's on September 20th, and I can share the details with you. It's on a platform called Maven, which does these kind of cohort-based, small, intimate sessions. And then last but not least, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Again, we are talking about LinkedIn. So if it helps you to have a bigger reach for your first and second degree connections, or if you have any other questions that come up after this, feel free to let me know. And if you're curious, I can put the link for the masterclass. So I think it's been the 3 minutes that I mentioned. So I'm happy to take questions at this time. So I see a question in the chat. So happy to have you raise your hand in case you're wondering where that is. It's a little hidden. It's under reactions, where you can raise your hand, or you can physically raise your hand if you're on video and I can see you. So I'll go with Michael's question, then Sarah Beth, then we just spend the next half hour just on questions. I wanted to make sure this is as personalized and custom as I can make it. Cool. So could I talk about what has worked for me using LinkedIn Navigator? So I am a big proponent of paying for services when it makes sense. So when I was, you know, earlier and I didn't have a big network, I was paying for LinkedIn Navigator. I think I'm gonna pay for it again because it's really great. What is the differentiator is both that the search you can do for free when you go on LinkedIn is a lot more like general, whereas if you have LinkedIn Navigator, you can get very, very specific. So let me see if I can kind of show you this in real time. Let's see. All right, so let me just search for, all right. So what I tend to do is, like when I'm on LinkedIn, and you can see I have like 100 people waiting for responses. So I need to get back on my responding to invitations game. But when I'm curious about certain things, like, okay, I want to know what this company Ocho does, then I could do a very quick search. This is a search I did yesterday, and I was like, okay, what does this company Ocho do? And then it helps me find a search, so you're not missing anything when you have a free search like this one. And then it shows me like, okay, the founder, cool, he's a second degree connection, and you know, the other co-founder as well as a second degree connection. I can like click on this person's profile and then just like learn more about what they do, what they've done in the past. It turns out he's an investor. Cool, he was a founder at Teachable before. And then if I really want to like learn more, then I can like scroll down, go on to their company page, go on to their website, all that stuff. So search, you can always use free search, but then the difference with having Navigator, which is like the paid version of LinkedIn, and that type of search is that you then get like over a dozen filters where you could say, hey, I want to only look for this potential like avatar of clients. So think of your ideal client. There's like a million different ways to say the same thing, which is like avatar, ideal client profile. Just think of your dream client, and then you can pretty much look for lookalike clients. So it could be, hey, my dream clients are people, women who are in senior manager roles in the accounting department in a Fortune 100 company based in Canada, and you know, they have recently gotten to this job, so they are more likely to need my support for thriving in their role. I just came up with this example right now, right? So I've given it now 5 different very specific factors, and you could go up to like a dozen factors, and then it will narrow it down to the members that meet this. So to answer your question, Michael, it's very good for if you are looking to do prospecting where you don't necessarily have a big list. And then you could reach out to those people either via InMails, which are those like paid LinkedIn messages that I'm honestly not a big fan of, because I don't know how many of you get a bunch of like spammy InMails on the daily. I am a big fan of in the connection request, I just say what I like want to say that I would have in the InMail. Granted, that's because when I'm connecting with someone, it's already very personalized. I already know why I'm connecting with them, and I'm just very upfront. Like, hey, I really loved your session. Like someone I just messaged yesterday connected with me, and I saw her response this morning. She did a really amazing Forbes article that I really loved, that I read last night. And I'm of the mindset that like, if anyone in the world has done something that I appreciate and I find them on LinkedIn and there's a reason for me to connect with them, I either follow them, or if I really, really want to like connect with them and have an actual communication going, then I just reach out to them with a connection request. That's actually how I became a certified coach, was the ex-CEO of CTI. I just like messaged him because he wrote a really great book called Positive Intelligence, and I loved it. And I just, you know, like cold LinkedIn request messaged him, not in mail, and I said, hey, like expressly that I really loved your book. I would love to keep an eye on what you're doing and would love to connect. And then he replied like a day or two later, yeah, sure, that would be great. And then I don't know how many months later, it turned out that he had left CTI. He was doing this whole other company called Positive Intelligence, and that's how I actually got into the certification for coaching. I'd been doing it before, but just an example. I kind of answered 2 questions that weren't asked, but basically the difference, the short answer is you can get very, very specific with a paid search, whereas on the free search, you can get very general answers and general intros and general, I should say, profiles. So hopefully that answered your question. If you have any follow-ups, feel free to put them in the chat. Cool, Sarah Beth. You're muted, I think, but feel free to unmute.
Whoops, sorry about that. I thought I hit
it's all
unmute.
good. No worries.
So hi, Lida. Thanks for the session. I have quite a tactical question.
Yeah,
Um,
go ahead.
I'm posting weekly, or
Yes.
about weekly, and I'm curious if you have opinions on whether I should be. So I have a website for my coaching business, and I've got a blog as part of that website. And then what I do is I post an intro and then a link to my blog post on my company page. I'm
Yes.
curious if you have opinions about whether I should be blogging on LinkedIn or whether the way I'm sharing my content is effective enough to show up um, on LinkedIn and kind of take advantage of the stats you just shared.
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. And I'm happy you brought it up because I actually had a slide about this and I was like, okay, I want to keep my presentation to like 20 minutes or less. So let me share screen. And the reason I'm sharing screen is like I'm very visual. So hopefully it's helping you. So before I share screen though, I would say that, you probably heard the saying, people buy from people. Like it's still at the end of the day, even if you're in B2B and you're selling like your services, your coaching services to Fortune 500 HR managers. That HR manager is still a person, right? So at the end of the day, my strong belief is we're all, even if we're in a B2B market, it's still a B2B, B2C sale at the end of the day. So it's a customer to customer sale at the end of the day, right? So, and that's the reason why it's very, it's an unwritten rule. No one on LinkedIn is going to tell you, oh yeah, company pages don't perform as well as your individual page, because that kind of goes against their ad revenue strategy. But definitely since Microsoft has bought them and it's less so, I'm not going to say it's a cost center for Microsoft. I don't know. It's like on their private P&L, probably like how much money they are making from LinkedIn and how much they're paying overhead and LinkedIn employees and so on. But since they bought it, it's changed a lot where um, individual posts are like, I know my individual posts are like 10x more successful than the company posts. So I can share with you what I'm talking about. It doesn't mean don't post on your company, right? So what happens is, so I posted 3 days ago on my company page, and it's like, a few people liked it, a few people commented. That's like by far the lowest stats I have ever had, right? And probably it's like I posted after the workday. It was probably not the wisest thing, but that was because I wanted to get the company one out so that I could then post about it the following morning myself. So what you'll see here is, the post itself is decent. I would limit yourself to a few hashtags so to get it out into the multiverse of LinkedIn when you're posting on your company, because yeah, like it's not going to be seen as many people, because what they want you to do is boost this. And what that means is then they make ad revenue, right? And it totally makes sense. Other platforms are doing this for both individual and company. I've never seen on the individual side it suggesting to me that I boost this post. So they've definitely changed strategy for that. So to answer your question, I'm a big fan of doing like a dual effort. So post on your company page and post on your personal page, because the platform still needs to pay its employees, pay, all the fees that they have. So they need ad revenue, right? Totally makes sense. Fair play. But I am not a big fan of boosting company posts, because people at the end of the day buy from other people. So again, 10x at least for my average post is like 10x better on my personal side. So it's not a either or. I kind of like to do and, if that helps.
So, so thank you. And yes, I do reshare my company post on my personal page. My question was more about where the content of the post lives. So I'm writing blog posts
Yes.
on my website and then just sharing a link to that blog post. And my question was more about, I know there's an ability to share article, like the effectively blog on
Oh,
LinkedIn as well. And I'm
yes.
just wondering if you're aware if there's a better performance of having my content seen if I'm
Uh-huh.
using LinkedIn as my blogging platform versus the way I'm doing it, which is share a link and have an intro, kind of similar to what it looked like you did.
Yeah.
Have an intro on, I'm doing it from my company page and then resharing
Got it. Got it. Got
from
it.
my
Okay.
personal, but it's
I was
more about the
answering a
blogging
different
platform.
question. So you are asking a very
You've
tactical
answered
question.
them.
I'm happy to share with you exactly where that is. So number one thing also, when you reshare, it loses a lot of the SEO juice, SEO power, all the kind of searchability. So I'm a fan of reposting again, like even if it's copy paste, and then like that's just what I've seen work for myself. Again, these are not like written rules anywhere because the algorithm's changing on a quarterly basis. I've just seen it work better where I copy paste, tweak it a little bit so it's like my voice, and put it into the personal, but I'll show you exactly what where to do it. So usually I'm posting like in this format, right? And how you get here is you go to the home feed, and then you just click the post button, and then you post, right? So yeah. But so what you can do instead, so I'm in home, what I would do is move over here and do write article, and then you start publishing, and then that lands in a different side of LinkedIn that's a lot more like it. How I can describe it is if we are posting just like a normal post without clicking that button, if I just start a post, like remember back like the Facebook status years, that's kind of where it lives on the platform. Whereas, so it's seen as much more ephemeral, it's seen as much more like timely. Whereas when you click the article button, it's seen as more like evergreen. So it's like, oh, okay, this post it's still going to be relevant in 2024 versus what I want to talk about now. Like if I'm sharing my Maven masterclass that's happening in September, like it's not going to be relevant for people in a year from now. Well, maybe it will be if I keep doing them, right? But that's the difference. So it goes on a different part of LinkedIn. So I would just click here. Cool. All right. I don't know the order of questions, so I'll go with Sarah's question, then Wendy's, then Amy's, if that's okay. So Sarah's question, do you suggest we invite people to like our business even though we're not super active on the business page? Right now I have only a few likes. My opinion is that it doesn't make a big difference. I've just seen, I think like my page has only like, I don't know, like 100 or so likes, my company page. And I've gotten like coaching and consulting clients like no problem. And I think it's a lot more about content than about liking things. So of course you're welcome to do that. And when people like your page, what it means is that it just shows up anytime you post from your business page, it just shows up like in their content feed a little higher than it would have, but it doesn't do anything beyond that. I mean, that's already good. So you do want some followers, but I haven't necessarily seen like if I go back and look at my followers, I don't know if like all of those people are going to be my clients, right? Whereas like when I post, either it's like first or second degree connections that reach out and then they become my clients. That's how it's worked for the last few years. If there's any follow-up questions, feel free to put it into the chat as well. Cool. Wendy?
I'm happy to have this conversation offline if it makes sense because I don't want to use up the group time, but there's a showcase page
Yes.
inside LinkedIn. So underneath my personal page, I have a showcase page and it happens to point to my business, which is very different than the business page.
Yes.
And so I'm curious about how people normally use showcase pages and whether it makes sense to decouple them, the individual and the business page.
Great question. I'm trying to get to that page so I can screen share. I'll just screen share right now. Okay, so you can see like, you know, when you go into your own profile, like obviously I have a different view than you're gonna have because I have all these analytics of like how my posts have been doing in the last 7 days, all that stuff. So I can go in there. So that's how you know when you're like logged in and you're in the right place. So you just go on your own profile, and if it will let me scroll, then so this is what you're talking about, right? Like featured?
No. So if you go underneath me and your profile on the top, underneath at the very top title bar, go underneath the me caret. So go all the way up to the top.
Yes.
Right under, even higher, higher. To the right, you see your picture.
Oh, okay, yes.
It says me. And then usually there's you have company here.
Yeah.
Pradari Consultant.
Yeah.
But you can also have a showcase page. You can create a showcase page.
Oh,
do you know?
Okay. That's new to me. So I would love to see it. If you could maybe screenshot or something and then send it to me.
Yeah,
via message, then I can
Yep.
look into it and let you know. But
Perfect.
yeah, learning every day. So
Thanks.
I can share a little more about featured, which is I guess is a different thing than showcase, but that's kind of what I thought you were referring to. So what I tend to do with featured is, again, like those more evergreen posts that I have, I put them here, and then I can put them on featured and then remove them as well. So like for example, I posted recently because I wanted some feedback on the LinkedIn course that I have. And I just wanted some like survey feedback. So again, I posted, I got a bunch of like survey responses. Another like hot tip for you right now is all these platforms, they don't like when you take people off the platform. So it helps if you put your link and or links in the first comment. It's a little annoying for people to find. But what I've noticed, it doesn't work every single time, but I got over 3,000 like people who saw this, and then I got like, I don't know, a lot of survey responses, which was very helpful for me because then it helped me to finalize that page. Of course, I didn't do it the other way, which means I didn't put the link in here, so I can't tell you what that A/B test would have been. But so, for example, this is in my featured right now, right? So it's not showcased exactly, but it's in my featured. Since it's no longer relevant because I don't need this survey stuff, I can just remove it from featured. And similarly, if you have a post that you really love or has done really well, or it's that more evergreen content that Sarah Beth was sharing, you can put it into your featured. It's as quick as that one click that I shared. You just go into the top three corners at the top right corner of each post, the three little dots, add to featured, and that's worked well. So I don't know about showcase, I can get back to you, but for featured, I've noticed that because it's right at the top beyond obviously my intro, people tend to go there and take action on those posts. So happy to address the showcase question after. Cool. Amy.
So my situation is I have my own website on WordPress. I have a blog as part of that. There's a connector from WordPress to LinkedIn, which will automatically post things.
Mm-hmm.
However, one of the things I think I'm hearing from you right now is that's not great because it links back to my blog, and LinkedIn doesn't like that for SEO purposes. They don't like driving traffic off for. So I should write my own article and then link to that in the first comment. The other option that I was looking at is LinkedIn has newsletters.
Yes.
Keep all of the content on their platform. And I was wondering the benefits and trade-offs of writing the content in both places or just trying to do it in newsletters. Like eventually I want to keep control of my own content, but I could duplicate it into newsletters. I don't know if more people will see it that way and if I will get better results. So interested in your experience.
Cool. Great question. This is a dilemma I have as well, because I have, I don't know, like several thousand people on a newsletter that I don't usually write. I need to be writing more newsletters, but I own that ecosystem. I mean, not really, because MailChimp owns that, like that, how the newsletter goes out and so on. So any email service provider you're using, like has a different kind of layout and so on. But to your point, I'm not then playing with an algorithm. It's all about like deliverability and how MailChimp or a competitor can get the emails to the people's inbox. So I've also been having this dilemma of like, do I then create a newsletter on LinkedIn and then put it there? So because I just haven't, taken as much time to focus on newsletter, I haven't done that. I would say that for me, so I try not to tell people you should do this or should not, because everyone has a very specific focus and different platforms work for different people. I can tell you the two things that I do is LinkedIn and email. That's it. Like I don't do Instagram. Like I did for a hot minute where I had an intern do it for me all of 2020. And I was like, this is just not my platform. It could be that it is the second platform for all y'all. Like, that's great. Like Facebook could be like, I'm a big fan of keeping it more focused, because otherwise I will do too much and it'll get a little out of hand. So I'm LinkedIn email. I would recommend to you that you pick like your two. So it sounds like it could be your website and LinkedIn, for example, right? Let's go with that example. Then there's nothing wrong with duplicating your content that you're putting together in a newsletter format on LinkedIn. And then, you know, in the newsletter itself, driving people to your site, your WordPress site, and then funneling people from that newsletter also to your own world, right? So that's a good way to do it, because then you're kind of taking people from an ecosystem that you have a little less control, like a lot less control of because of algorithm changes and so on, and then funneling them into your own ESP, like email service provider. So that's the way I would do it. It's not like a should or should not. It's just that, like, I think that makes sense because you've already written the content. Why not get the most eyeballs? Another thing that I really like about LinkedIn newsletter is that once you create it, then you can, with the click of a button, invite everybody on your like in your network to a newsletter. So I can share my screen just to show you where it shows up. I don't have any people inviting me right now, but once you create a newsletter, and you can, with a click of a button, it will show up in the invitations section. So that's really powerful. So like, imagine you have all your existing first degree connections that could then at the click of a button say, yes, I would like to follow Amy's newsletter. That's pretty cool. So that's the way I would do it, is like, you're already taking the time and the effort. Why not duplicate it on LinkedIn and then be a little strategic about it and just have people like, yeah, sign up on your website with through a pop-up or whatever to bring it into your own ecosystem so that you have full control. Cool. All right, so we have a little time, so I'm going to walk you through just this course, just so you can see if it's something that you'd be interested in. And then I'm happy to take more questions. So if people want to raise their hands or put it in the chat, we have 10 minutes left for that. So LinkedIn mastery. So what we did is like a very high level introduction, just due to the amount of time and people. What I am doing now is that there's a 1-day cohort-based course. Again, it's just 5 people and myself, all about getting you results on LinkedIn. Like, imagine what all the screen sharing I've been doing now, but times 10. And what, you know, you see your testimonies here as well, but what, let me see where it shows up. Yeah. So you get a little more, you know, about like gaining clarity. Then we get very, very nitty gritty into like actually how to gain leads and paid clients, and then how to implement and get paid. So I like to fast track people's success. So I have a 3-hour like pre-homework that you can do on your own time whenever, and then the session itself is 5 hours. And then if you want to do an optional coaching session with me, you can. And if you want the slide deck, you can, it's a free resource. Like, you can just quickly get the slide deck that I shared with you, with maybe a couple more slides as well, if you just scroll to the free resource area. And someone asked, I missed the first half of the session. So I will try to make the recording available to people who share. So if you reach out to me and you share your email that you want to get this information, I'm happy to share. I just don't want to bombard people. You know, I want people to like have full autonomy on what information they receive. So I'm happy to share the recording. I would say for those of you who want the recording and or slide deck, to just go onto this link that I put in and go to the free resource section. If you drop your email, then I can send you, the slide deck gets sent to you automatically. And then once Zoom processes the recording, I can send that to you. So just to be in the interest of protecting people's inboxes, happy to share those as well. Cool, we have some time left. So if anybody wants to ask questions, I'll be here for the next you know, few minutes. And if not, I can always give you back some time to go take a break between this and the next session. So you can just put your email into this link. I try to make things automated, so I'm not doing a lot of admin. If you scroll to the free resource section, you'll see there's a place to drop your email. So let me just screen share again. I'm a big fan of visuals. So if you go onto this Maven link, and there's a section that says get this free resource now. I mean, it has my email now, obviously. If you put this email, you'll get, like, it automatically will send you the slide deck that I presented. It has a couple more slides. And then for the people who do that, I will, once the Zoom recording is processed, I can send you the Zoom as well. Cool. All right. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciated all your time. Again, if you would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to address any questions that you have that, you know, are lingering, or anything that needs some more clarification. Appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your Friday. Bye for now.